Hello, I'm Cara from Cara Tarot, and welcome to another edition of Deck Book. Today I'm going to be talking about two floral decks, the Tarocchi Flora and the Tarot de Carlotydes, and a book, The Contemplative Tarot, A Christian Guide to the Cards by Brittany Muller. So I'm going to start with the Italian deck, the Tarocchi Flora. It comes in a lovely box. I got this from Amazon, Italy, because when I got this, it was only available in the Italian, and it was only available through Amazon, Italy. My understanding is that it either has become available in the United States in an English version, or it will be soon. So one of the important features to note is that in the version that I have, the guidebook is in Italian. Now, I use Google Translate, the app on my phone, and that does quite a nice job. But I also have not used that very much because they're very straightforward in the traditional Tarot de Marseille style. Before I get into the cards, let me show you just the lovely box I sort of showed you, and then the book. I will begin by showing you the majors. Now, the backs of the cards are just beautiful. It is the floral aspect of this deck that drew me to it. A nice mid-weight. So at this size, they are a large size card. These cards are a little narrower than the traditional tarot card. These are Lo Scarabeo cards, which they would come about to there if they were the regular size. They'd come about to there. So you see, it's much longer and wider than a regular tarot size. I like large decks. I just want to go through the majors with you. There are many themes that happen in the majors that recur. Of course, the deck is floral by nature. Many of the majors appear in this sort of, almost in a floral planter. That is the Fool, the Magician, La Pepessa. Many of them are fantasy creatures of one kind or another, half mermaids, the Empress, the Emperor, Il Papa, the Pope, the Lovers, the Chariot, Justice, the Hermit. So most of these majors appear on these sort of a planter or on a dais or dais, as do the court cards also. Strength, La Forza, La Peso, the Hanged Man. He's a centaur. These centaurs appear here. Death. And again, you see the bright colors throughout. The recurring themes of flowers, La Temperanza, Il Diavolo, Tor, the star, the moon, the sun, judgment, and the world. Now, so far in my looking at the book, I have not seen any floral definitions. So if you're someone who knows flowers and the meanings of flowers, that may add an additional layer. For me, I would be using these mostly by the color of the flowers. Color is very important to me in reading and in cards that I like. So those are the majors, so you sort of get a sense of the themes that go on in this deck. Now there's something particular I want to show you about the court cards. Let me see if I can get them all in one shot. These are the page, the Fante de Copa. But you'll see it's really the same page, the same sort of fawn with the different symbols. The Cavaliere, the Knight, again, the same character, different hair colors. The same is true of the Queen. And the King. So I think that's an interesting element of the royal families, that they are all the kind of the same people wearing different family colors, and that would be something very interesting in terms of the royal families of historically of Italy that often were interrelated. So we've seen the majors and the court cards now, and so now these are out of order because I have been working with this deck. I just separated them. I'm occasionally pausing to flip the music forward. I'm trying something new today, and I'm playing music from my music channel on YouTube, Caradal Russell. I am a harpist, cellist, and contralto, and I perform and I teach all of those. And so I have a music playlist. I don't think you can hear much of it anyway because of the way I set things up today. I was trying a new setup. But if there are pauses, I'm flipping beyond the talk because I also sometimes include educational tidbits and introductions for those pieces. So I separated them to show you those aspects of those, but these now are not in any particular order. And I'll lay out a few of these. You can see these are rather static pips. Lovely with the flowers, but the flowers are more of a static decoration. They don't necessarily change in any meaningful way around the suit symbol. And I wanted to show you something about older Italian decks. This is very much in keeping with the older Italian decks. So this is the Pierpont Morgan Visconti Sforza. And you see here, there are flowers, but they're really kind of a wallpaper decoration. There are pip cards in more modern decks where the flowers have elements that add to the reading. Here, they're really, you might either see that they're blooming or they might look like they're sticking out a tongue, but here they are much more of a wallpaper decoration that just is fitted around whatever the symbol is. And this is typical of more historic decks. I find. Another example of this is from the Atea, which has very static pips and a kind of a wallpaper design that really does not change much, except that it fits around the very static pips. So you don't have any particular action going on with most of the pips. You just have the number of the pips, and you don't have great differences between any of the representations of the pips. And that's a deck from the 1700s. And then this is Los Scarabaeos, the classic tarot, which is a deck from the 1800s. And again, the same thing. The pips are quite static. Now, here's a little bit of a floral embellishment that you might be able to read something additional from that, but they seem to be very similar from card to card. So again, it seems to be more of a wallpaper decoration around those than something that adds to the elements of the reading. Could have sort of comme ci, comme ça, a little bit with some of these. There are definitely more differences in these. This is the 1800s, so we're getting closer to modern decks. By contrast, I'm going to show you the Spanish tarot, which is really a highly colored version of the Tarot de Marseille. And here you see flowers that have a lot of character. These almost appear to be sticking out their tongues. This is a bud. This one's a little more open. They almost seem to be talking to each other. You see differences in the decorations around these. Here, this one has flowers. This one does not. You can read things about, look at the positions of the leaves, and this one doesn't seem to be open. And you can add depth to your reading by looking at those. And now, so that's a difference of the, this is highly overgeneralized, but a French deck, a French-based deck. This is the Fournier Spanish Tarot, which is, the drawings are based very much on the traditional Tarot de Marseille drawings. And if I'm wrong about that, you can correct me. But the point that I'm making is that those flowers are more lively and add to the reading. Whereas here, I'll just continue laying them out. See, these are very similar in the way that they're laid out. They don't add a tremendous amount of personality around the suit. So for people who don't like reading pips, this is probably one of the more difficult kinds of pips to read. You're being given the suit and the number and not a tremendous amount of additional information from the decoration around them. So there you get a sense of the really beautiful Tarocchi Flora. As I said, there's supposed to be an English version coming called, I guess it would just be the Floral Tarot. And that is a pip deck. It is Tarot de Marseille style, or traditional pip style. The next deck is the Tarot de Carlotydes. Unusually for me, This is a smaller than usual deck. It has the traditional book with teeny tiny print, and it's kind of a little fold out book in English, French, Dutch, Portuguese, and Spanish. And I actually follow the artist of this deck on Carlotydes. I think if you look up Tarot de Carlotydes, she comes up on Instagram. I follow her on Instagram because I do really adore her artwork. This is a beautiful, beautiful deck. Once again, I will use the Atea deck to show the size difference. Here it's even smaller. Remember, these are narrower than a regular tarot card, and so these are even narrower and shorter. And I'm pretty sure these are completely out of order, so I can just show you these beautiful pictures. I would call this a hybrid deck. The Hermit, the Wheel of Fortune, the Knight of Wands, the Hanged Man. This mix of kind of folk imagery, Ten of Wands, and it's in Spanish and English. Six of Pentacles, a mix, as I was saying, of folk imagery and a very kind of modern art imagery, and it's so colorful. Obviously an homage to Klimt there. And you'll see an homage to fashion illustration as well, which is part of my history, so it's another reason that I really like this deck. Here's an example. This is the Three of Pentacles. So you see the Three of Pentacles not in the shape where one would expect to see them, and then also not in a scene where one might expect to see them, but it's still a decorated scene. And that's why I call it a hybrid, because as far as the suit symbols themselves, they're kind of laid out like a pip. You just get the symbols, and there are three of them. But what's around it is definitely illustrated, but it doesn't match either Tarot de Marseille or Rider-Waite-Smith. It seems to be a completely its own being. And yet I still find it quite easy to read. Ten of Swords, because she's retained this, like here's a good example, the Seven of Cups. We have this kind of traditional Rider-Waite-Smith imagery, and yet it is not at all traditional in Rider-Waite-Smith, but you recognize it from that. And then, as I said, with the Pentacles, you get something much more like Tarot de Marseille, where you have the number of them and an illustration, but here we even have flowers, so it's hard to really see that as the typical poverty of the Five of Pentacles. Knight of Pentacles, King of Cups, wearing a bear outfit. The Moon, very much reminiscent of Herté's drawings or Barbier's drawings, French fashion illustration. So she draws from a lot, and is this imagery of the hand with the knives or the hands with fire. Robert M. Place uses fire on the ends of the fingers. These are kind of alchemical, esoteric allusions. Then with a little castle down here, very much like Rider-Waite-Smith. So just an incredible mix of influences, all with flowers, the Queen of Wands, completely in bloom. The Three of Swords with religious symbolism, esoteric symbolism, flowers. It's a typical, if this is a Fournier deck, some people would think these are a little light. They're about the same as the Los Carabeo weight of a lot of their decks. You've seen they slip very well. So they slide well, not too much. I like the feel of these. They are, let me see, can you see? They are somewhat glossy, but not super shiny. The Hierophant, possibly one of my favorite depictions of the Hierophant. Some of these just make me laugh. So you can see all of these diverse elements. Again, reminiscent of Erte, Marie Antoinette. Temperance, looking very much like the 1920s and 1930s dresses that were specifically modeled on the styles of Marie Antoinette, and they were very wide. Six of Swords. Six of Cups has a little bunny again with the children. The sun, almost like a Ziegfeld girl. The Devil. And this actually is an homage to Hedy Lamarr in her costume from the film Ziegfeld Girl. The Four of Swords, an homage to the Princess and the Pea. The Magician, to me, I believe is David Bowie or someone very similar. The Emperor with no clothes. The Nine of Swords, and look how dark this is and stark it is compared, even chained to the bed, compared to this colorful deck. The rest of it really tells you what that card is about. The Two of Cups and the Tower, one of my favorite towers. If you can't tell, I just love the illustrations of this deck. As I said, I find it quite easy to read with, even though it's perhaps because of that hybrid quality. It has a very straightforward voice. I have not yet had a reading with it that was particularly tough, but that may just be the happenstance of not having had that message yet. In my work with it so far, they've been more upbeat messages. By Fournier, Tarot de Carlotydes. And finally, Brittany Muller's The Contemplative Tarot, a Christian guide to the cards. If you've watched my channel at all, you know I am a Christian and I read tarot. I do not do fortune telling. I don't, and as with most, I dare say, as with most people that read tarot today, there's an understanding that the cards really kind of give you signposts to where you are now and things that you may not have noticed from your inner subconscious. And then they can help open that up for you to your conscious mind. But the path to the future is entirely yours once you're given the information to be opened up to those to the path that's going on currently. So the beginning of this book is quite lengthy. She has a brief history of the tarot, why do I pray with tarot? And those are all very personal essays of hers. And why and how do I pray with tarot? And then around, what page is this? 38. So you got 37 pages of forward, basically. And then she begins with each card. To go through the card, she has a biblical quote. She has a combination of history and allusions and meditation and ideas of how this card fits into the rest of the deck. So about 2.5 pages, 3 pages on each card, and then reflections, questions for you to think about as you meditate with each card. And then just goes through the entire deck that way. I think it's a tremendous resource for anyone who is struggling with how do they put their Christian faith together with the reading of tarot, especially because there are so many priests, Orthodox and non-Orthodox, who insist that tarot is a doorway to Satan. And now it can be. But the way that I feel about it is candles are used by Satanists and candles are used in the church. Incense, same thing. So your intention matters and your spiritual maturity matters. And this is a wonderful guide to help you deepen your spiritual maturity while using the tarot cards. I also, if you follow me on Instagram, Cara Dahl Russell on Instagram, when I do daily readings, I very frequently will also include Bible verses that relate to that reading because that's part of my practice. And so when I talk about like people who are intentionally witches or pagan or non-Christian, they use a lot of the same tools that the church uses. But the church hasn't come out and said that candles are of the devil. The church hasn't come out and said that incense is of the devil, and certainly a lot of Orthodox churches use that. And I actually really believe that most of the pastors who say that, as brilliant as they may be with theology, are simply ignorant of how the tarot may be used in ways other than paganism and witchcraft and demonology. And as most of us know, there's a big wide world of the use of tarot that does not include those things. It can. It can include those things. And I even follow a couple people who identify as witches. And because for me, there are things that I can learn about their viewpoint and how to read the cards and their interpretation of the cards that can be illuminating for me without me following their path. Since we're on this subject, I will say, when you see a lot of these videos of people who say, oh, I was a tarot reader, but now I've become Christian and I don't read cards anymore, I personally think that that has to do with spiritual immaturity. I actually think it's a good thing that those people are not reading tarot because they don't have the spiritual maturity to be able to discern what works with their Christianity and what doesn't. And that's not a slam. It's just what is. As we all know, maturity comes at a lot of different ages and rates. And if they are just going back to the church, they are not. They are novices again. And so they do need that period of getting away from other influences. I've done both. Since my childhood, I've been interested in tarot cards at various levels. I've dropped it at certain times. And only now, as a senior, have I come back and really seen that I'm able to set up my own boundaries of to what actually enhances my Christianity and my spiritual path, and what is not something for me, and what is it's an area that I'm not going to go to. And I think the most of the people that I follow, that I respect, do that same thing. Even they may not be doing what I'm doing, but I respect that they are following their path and using it in a very conscious way, in the way that they want to use it. This book, back to the book, sorry, got on my soapbox. It has a foreword by Carl McCullman. If you have not found him, he has a lot of videos on YouTube, Carl McCullman. And he also specifically addresses a deep Christian faith with the ability to use tarot cards, as well as other aspects of esotericism, mysticism. He's very much follows the same path that I kind of came back to deepening my faith with, which is the path of following the English mystics and the Spanish mystics and of the Catholic Church, even though I am not Catholic and I wasn't raised Catholic. So just a wonderful book for those of you who are interested in this particular way of thinking about using the cards and deepening your meditation of the cards in synchronicity and symbiosis with your Christian faith. Brittany Muller's The Contemplative Tarot. I want to be sure to state that this is not a book that's going to help you learn the meanings of the tarot cards. This is not a book that's going to introduce you to the meanings of the tarot cards. It's not a book that you're going to buy when you want to just do a layout and be able to flip through and get some keywords or meanings to do a quick reading as a beginner. This is none of those things. This is a book for someone who is specifically looking to deepen their understanding of the cards in alignment with their Christian faith. So I thank you for spending time with me on these highly floral decks, the Tarot de Carlotydes, with these beautiful backs and engaging and diverse and fun and floral cards, and the exquisite Tarocchi Flora. And it's the company that it's by is Vecchi. Just highly multicolored deck that just feels, it has that kind of soft, it's not the sticky rose petal finish, but just a slightly soft, smooth finish. wonderful to work with. Definitely, these are for PIP readers. And this is a hybrid deck. And I guess you could say this is a hybrid book, The Contemplative Tarot, a Christian guide to the cards. I hope you've enjoyed this. Thanks for spending some time with me. And deck, book. I'm Cara Taro. Have a wonderful day.